All right, so let's take a minute and talk about a couple of things you're going to see when you do the hands-on lab creating a basic site with Node.js and Express. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things you're going to see that are slightly different than what we've done before. All right, so once you run the Express generator and create the Express sample example, you're going to get this file structure. You're going to have your bin, public, all right, routes, and views. All right, and then this app.js and package.json. All right, so we already know what package.json is. All right, so the key thing here is it's going to include a lot of dependencies for us, and a lot of these dependencies are um, are are what we call middleware, which we'll talk about in a future module. All right, but the body parser, the cookie parser, the debug, Express. So there's the Express dependency. Jade, which we're using for our templates, Morgan, Serve, Favicon, and Stylus. All right. Now, let's take a look at this app.js. Well, first, let's look at the routes. So, from the lab, you know that we have to create routes to map the incoming URL with the functionality that we want to handle it. So we implement those in routes. So notice that we have two routes here, index.js and users.js. So generally, we'll break up our routes based on the functionality or the area of the site that they handle in order to make our code simpler and easier to maintain. So this is why we have a route for handling the index and a route for handling the users. All right, so in index, it's very simple. We're using Express. Now here's what's different than what you're used to. We're using the router. We used to use app.use, but we're using the router in this case, which is given to us by Express. All right, so this is what we call a static function. So we're expanding express.router, gives us an instance of the router. Now, we use it pretty much the same way. Instead, we say router.get, all right, and we're mapping to the root, which is going to return the home page. All right, so here's our callback handler. All right, so we use response.render, which we've seen before, and we're going to render the index template and Express as the title. All right, so it's going to render the index page and the Express title. So if we go to views, we see our index.jade file. So this is what's going to be rendered. So it's going to extend our layout. Right, the layout is one that we created in the lab. All right, and then there's our block content, which says this is where we want to put the content. We're setting the h1 to the title. All right, so where's this title coming from? Well, it's coming from here, that second argument that we passed in. All right, and just a simple paragraph that says welcome to, and then also the title. All right, so that's how you return a page. All right, and then of course we have to export this router so it can be used, which you're going to see in a minute. All right, so let's take a look at users. All right, so users. All right, here's the beginning stuff. All right, and it also responds to the root for getter, right? And it will respond with a resource. All right, if we have one. All right. Now, views, pretty self-forward that we talked about. We got some content in there to talk about the views. All right, now let's look at how the app.js uses these index.users. All right, so it's going to create an app.js for us. In our case, we use server.js or our shopping cart server.js, which is fine. All right, let's go back to app. All right, so we're including Express, we're including path, favicon, logger, body parts, cookie parser, body parser, and style. So here's all our requires that we need. Now, in order to access those routes, we have to require those and use those. So here we have a require, and we're pointing to the routes directory in the index, and we're storing in a variable called index. Here we're going to require the users route, and we're going to store in a variable called users. All right, create an instance of app. All right, this is setting up the view engine and the views. We already saw that in the lab. All right, this is the user logger for us if we're in dev mode. This stuff you'll see when we get to the middleware topic. All right, so here's the next part you need. So we require those routes. All right, now we need to specify when to use those routes. So whenever we get this, we want to use the index route. All right, whenever we get this URL, we want to use the users route. All right, and this is for handling 404s, page not found. All right. And then we export that app here. All right. Let's see. Anything else we need here? Style sheets, of course, your style is going to go there. Images here. So that's pretty much it for what I want to talk about. All right. And disregard this for now. All right. Take care.